Now I'm going to introduce significant figures. Now this is an area where a lot of students get confused, so make sure you're looking very carefully because it's basically not really confusing. So have a look. I'll show you a little bit of a recap before we start off with a little summary. What are significant figures? Remember how decimal places we start from the decimal point onwards? With significant figures we start from the very first number. Okay, so say for example if I have 3.587392, something like that, I just made that up. If I want to make that into say two significant figures, I don't start from the decimal, I start from the first number. So 1, 2. And again, we treat it like the same as decimal numbers where we look at the next number, which is 8. See how that's greater than 5? So we round the previous number up by 1. So to two significant figures, that would be 3.6. Okay, and that's it. That's all you need to remember. We just start from the first number. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the decimal here. But only exception, guys. The rule is you start from the first non-zero. The number that's not 0, that's where you start off with. So say for example, if you have 0.02305339, something like that, and they tell you to round it to two significant figures, you don't start from here, you start from the number that's not 0. 2 is the first number that is not 0, isn't it? So we start from 2. That's the key thing. So I'm going to start from 2 and go 1, 2. Okay, and then it becomes 0.023. I don't have to worry about rounding up because the next number is 0. Okay, so that's the little key thing that you got to remember. We start from the first non-zero number. That's the key thing. Okay, so that's pretty much it when we're rounding. Now another one. We might not be always looking at decimal numbers. Say for example if you have 59836, some number like that, and they tell you to round it to say two significant figures. I'll just keep using two significants. Again, you start from the first number. So you go 1, 2. Okay, but what do you do now? Well, actually, I'll kind of change this number. I'll change it to say a 3, just so it's a little bit easier for you. I won't go with the harder one to start off with. I'll just go with a simple 1. If I had that number, I'd go 1, 2, and you see the next number is greater than 5, so we'll have to round this up. So it's going to be 5, 4. And what do we do with all the other numbers? We make them 0. Okay, so that's pretty unique, isn't it? So, we have two significant figures. We only concentrate on the first two numbers and we round it up if we need to. And then the rest of the numbers, we simply make 0. Okay, so the idea of significant figures is rounding. We don't want to write 53,836 ants in a jar. We don't really want to be so specific, but we want an approximate number. When we want an approximate number, we use significant figures. So we can say there's roughly 54,000 ants in the jar. Okay, just so we don't really necessarily say it so specifically, do we? So to be rounding up, well, that's what we do with significant. That's why we use significant figures. Okay, so that's how we round it up to two significant figures. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. So the rest becomes 0. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We'll try some questions related to that. So hopefully you already got a good idea of what this is. Starting with question 5. It says part A, they give you the number and they want you to tell me how many significant figures are there. Well, remember remember with decimal places, we always count the numbers after decimal point. But with significant figures, you just count from the first number. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all 5 of them. So the answer is 5. Okay, that's it. Now be careful with B. Remember guys, if I say how many significant figures are there, I start from the first number. I have 1, 2, 3. The last number is 0. If it's 0, if the last numbers are 0, we don't include those last numbers. So in this case, we only include the first 3 numbers, so there's 3 significant figures. Now for those wondering why, have a look. The original number could have been 4. Okay? And if I say round it to 3 significant figures, it would be 1, 2, 3. The next number is less than 5, so I don't have to worry about rounding. So it's just 3, 9, 8. And what do we let the last number become? 0. So that's why the original number is this, but because after we round it to 3 significant figures, that's the number that it becomes. So the last number will become 0. So in this number, there's only 3 significant figures, as you can see. That's why we say 3, and that's why we don't include the 0, that's the last number. Okay, so can you remember that for me? That's something that you got to remember. So let's try the next question, and hopefully you guys can tell me the answer for this one. Okay, now, as I said in the previous question, don't include the last numbers if it's 0. But see how that's 0, that's 0, that's 0, and that's all 0. So how many significant figures are there? Just that one there. So it's 1. Okay. Now D. Now guys, even if there's 0, if it's in between numbers, you don't have to worry about it. You still include them. You only not include the numbers that are at the end. So in this case, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all 5 numbers are how many significant figures there are. Okay? And E, the last number is 0, so we only include the first 4. So that's the significant figures. And F, the last 2 are 0, so we only include the first 4. So 4 significant figures here. And G, it's 10 to the power of 6, isn't it? 10 to the power of 6. I'll show you guys, have a look. If I make 2.1, if it's 10 to the power of 6, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places, don't we? So we include our zeros here. Now if the decimal place is at the end, we don't have to worry about that one. So the answer is just 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Yeah? So all the last numbers are 0 except for the first 2. So we're only going to include 2 numbers. So it's just 2 significant figures. So basically, you don't include any of these, you just include the first 2 non-zero numbers. Okay? Well, they could be 0, but in this case it's not. So it's just 2.1. So it's just 2 numbers. Okay? So if you really want to, if you're really confused, you can like write it all out like I did just then. And H, we've got 10 to the power of 6. I said 10 to the power of 6, it's just all going to be 0, isn't it? 10 to the power of 6 is 1 with the 6 zeros at the end. So we're not going to include any of the zeros, we're just going to include the first 3, so 3 significant figures in here. Okay, so that's pretty much it guys, very, very simple. Now question 6, okay, they'll give us the numbers and they want to tell me how many significant figures there are again. Now in this one, the only thing you got to be careful of is the decimal numbers. Decimal numbers are a little bit different to whole numbers, so watch out for that. But anyway, 1 and 5, they're all non-zero, they're not zeros, so we just include both of them, 2 significant figures. Now B, guys, what did I say with significant figures? We always start from the first non-zero. So the first number is 0. The first non-zero is 1. So we include the numbers after 1. So 1 and 5 only. So there's 2 significant figures here. Okay? Now C, again, see how the first 2 numbers are 0, so we're not going to include those. We're only going to include 1 and 5, which are 2 numbers. Now D, again, we're not going to include the first 2 zeros, so we're only going to include 1, 0 and 5. If the 0 is in between numbers, that's perfectly fine, but we don't want the zeros to be in front. So only 1, 0 and 5, so 3 numbers, so 3 significant figures. E, okay, all of these are 0, so we only include 3, which is 1 number, 1 significant figures. F, okay, well the first number is not 0, so basically we're going to include all of these. So how many numbers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 6 significant figures. And G, It's going to be 2.1 times 10 to the power of 6. Alright, this one, just two numbers. It's similar, it's exactly the same as one of the questions in question 5. So it's just 2. So we don't include any of the zeros at the end. H, 10 to the power of 4. Be careful with this one, guys, because I'll show you. That one, if you move 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to go 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, isn't it? But we don't include the last 0, so we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we only include those numbers. So it's 6. Okay? So just be careful with that. Get the idea now? That's pretty much what we did so far. Now question 7. Okay, we've got a number there, and we're going to round it to 1, 2, and 3 significant figures. So let's get started. Starting with the first significant figure. So we're going to round it to 1 significant. It's not a decimal, and we're going to start from the first number. So we go 1. And then we know that the next number is less than 5, so all of these numbers just become 0. So it's 3 with all those zeros at the end. Now with 2 significants, we go an extra 1. So 2 significants. And the next number is 6, so we're going to round the 1 up to 2, and the rest becomes 0. And then 3, we have another significant place. The next number is 3, which is less than 5, so you just leave it as 3, 1, 6, with all the rest becoming 0. Okay, and that's it. That's pretty much what I've said repetitively, isn't it? Okay, B, 1 significant, we go 1. The next number is 6, which is greater than 5, so we're going to round the 4 up to 5, and the rest becomes 0. 2 significants, we go another place. Now the next number is less than 5, so we just leave it as 4, 6, with the rest all becoming 0. And 3 significant, it won't really make a difference. It's like that, but the next number is less than 5, so it's 4, 6, 0, with the rest becoming 0 again. So because they're all 0, these two are the same. Okay. 1 significant, just one place. The rest are pretty much 0, so you don't have to worry about rounding up in this question. It's just going to be 5 with everything becoming 0, including that 1. That also becomes 0. 2 significant figures, it won't really make much of a difference. And 3, same as well. Because all the middle numbers are 0, it won't make much of a difference. D, 1 significant. Remember, we start from the first number. We start from here, so we go 1 point over to the right. But see how the next number is less than 5? So it's just going to be 3. You don't have to put 3.000000. You can just write it as 3 in this one because it's not worrying about decimal places. Now 2 significant, we go an extra 1. The next number is less than 5, so you just make it 3.0. Now 3 significant figures, you go an extra 1. The next number is 5, which is greater than, 5 or greater, we round it up, don't we? So the 1 becomes a 2. And that's it. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. E, 1 significant. Now we only start from the first non-zero number. And this is 0. This is 0. 3 is the first non-zero number. So we start from here, 1 significant. So it's just going to be 0.03 as it is. Now 2 significant, we go an extra 1. So we just insert an extra 0 in there. So 0.030. And 3 significant, we just go an extra 1 place and insert the 0 into there. So 0.0300. Okay. And then F, we're going to go 1 significant. So we start from the first non-zero number. So we start from 3, 1. So it's just going to be 3. And this number here, 1 is less than 5, so we don't have to round it up. And you can see that after we move to 1 significant, we make everything else 0. So it's just going to be 30. So you don't have to write 30.000, you just write 30. So make sure you change the 1 to a 0. Now 2 significant, we go 1, 2, and we don't have to worry about rounding in this question as well because they're all less than 5. So it's just going to be 31. Now 3 significant, an extra 1, and it's just going to be 31.0. Okay, that's pretty much it. G, that times 6 to 1 significant. So don't worry too much about 10 times 6. We'll just go 1. So it's just going to be 5 times 10 to the power of 6. So you can just leave it as tens of power form. Okay, so don't worry about changing that. Just leave this alone. And just move it 1 and just make it 5. Now 2 significant, you go another extra place. So it's going to be 5.0 times 10 to the power of 6. And 3, we just make that like this. So it's 5.01 times 10 to the power of 6. So see how I just leave this 10 to the power of 6 as it is, and I just worry about the first number there. Okay? And then finally h. We've got 10 to the power of 4, but again, just don't worry about the power here. Don't worry about this. Worry about the first number. Now it's going to be 1 significant, so we start from 6, 1 significant. So it's just going to be 600. So these numbers all become 100. So whatever's before the decimal, you make sure it's all 0. Now if it's 2 significant, we go an extra 1, but it won't make much of a difference, so it's still 600. Now 3 significant, we go an extra 1, but see how the next number is 7, which is greater than 5? So we have to make this number here rounded up. So it's 601 times 10 to the power of 4. Okay, and that's pretty much it, guys. So can you identify the difference between significant figures and decimal places? Don't get confused with those, okay? And remember those key things that I told you about significant figures. So that concludes the significant figures.